We begin the autopsy of the modern financial slaughterhouse by understanding that the bank is not a vault where you store your money for safekeeping. It is a harvesting machine designed to exploit the specific cognitive defect in the human brain, known as linear bias. The human mind evolved to understand linear progression. If you hunt 1 deer, you have food for 3 days. If you hunt 2 deer, you have food for 6 days. But it is biologically incapable of intuitively grasping exponential functions and compound interest without deliberate calculation. The banking cartel knows this. They have hired the greatest behavioral psychologists and mathematicians on the planet to build a casino where the user interface looks like a utility, but the backend operates like a meat grinder. This is banking cannibalism. It is the act of the institution eating the financial future of its host, bite by bite, hidden behind the mask of convenience and security. The average civilian walks into a bank branch or opens an app and sees a clean, blue and white interface, smiling stock photos, and helpful chatbots. They do not see the mathematical weaponry pointed at their jugular. The first layer of this cannibalism is the inflation arbitrage of the savings account. The soft man believes he is being responsible by leaving his capital in a standard checking or savings account. He sees a number. He feels safe. The architect looks at that same account and sees a crime scene. When the bank gives you 0.01% interest, or even a generous 4% in a high-yield account, while the real rate of monetary debasement, inflation, is running at 7% or 10%, you are not saving, you are bleeding. You are paying the bank a fee in the form of lost purchasing power for the privilege of letting them lend your money out to someone else at 24%. This is the fundamental asymmetry. They take your labor, which you stored as cash, and they rent it out to the market at a 2,000% markup, giving you crumbs while they eat the loaf. They rely on your inability to calculate real yield. If you cannot subtract the inflation rate from the interest rate in your head, you are their prey. You are a battery powering their empire, slowly draining until you are discarded. But the passive destruction of savings is just the appetizer. The main course is the debt trap, specifically engineered through the credit card. The credit card is the most sophisticated financial weapon ever created because it weaponizes your own dopamine against you. The bank understands friction. When you pay with cash, there is a physical sensation of loss. You hand over the paper, you see it leave your wallet, and your brain registers pain. This pain limits spending. The credit card removes the friction. It decouples the pleasure of acquisition from the pain of payment. You swipe, you tap, you get the serotonin hit of the new purchase, but the pain is delayed by 30 days. This time gap is where they hunt. They rely on your temporal myopia, your inability to prioritize the future version of yourself over the present version, and then they deploy the minimum payment illusion. This is the single most predatory line of text in the financial world. The minimum payment is calculated algorithmically to be low enough that it feels manageable to your monthly budget, but high enough to cover the interest accrual while barely touching the principal balance. It is designed to keep you in a state of indentured servitude. If you have a $5,000 balance at 24% APR and you only make the minimum payments, you will not pay that debt off in a few months. You will pay it off in decades, and you will pay 3 times the original amount. The bank does not want you to pay off the debt. A customer who pays off their balance every month is called a deadbeat in industry terminology. They hate deadbeats. They want revolvers. They want you to revolve the debt forever, carrying the balance like a ball and chain, paying them a monthly subscription fee for the money you already spent. They are farming you. The 24% APR is not a number. It is a declaration of ownership over your labor. It means that for every hour you work, the first 15 minutes belongs to them. You are working for the bank. You just don't see the shackles because they are made of plastic and come with cashback rewards. Let us analyze the points and rewards psyop. This is the cheese in the mousetrap. The bank offers you 1% cashback or 2 times miles to induce you to use the card. The soft man thinks he is gaming the system. He says, I'm getting a free flight. He is a fool. The bank has calculated that the promise of points causes the average consumer to spend 20% to 30% more than they would have if they used cash. They are bribing you with pennies to steal dollars. The cost of the points is factored into the merchant fees, which raises the price of the goods you buy, and it is subsidized by the interest payments of the poor souls who fell into the revolving debt trap. When you use the points, you are not winning. You are participating in a system that cannibalizes the financially illiterate to subsidize the vacations of the middle class, all while the bank rakes in the transaction fees. Furthermore, they count on your cognitive slippage. They know that 80% of people will miss a payment or carry a balance eventually, negating the value of 10 10 years of points in a single month of interest charges. They are betting against your discipline, and the house always wins because human discipline is a finite resource, while compound interest is infinite. We must also dissect the overdraft protection racket. This is where the mask falls off completely. Protection is a mafia term. They are protecting you from the embarrassment of a declined card by allowing the transaction to go through and then charging you a $35 fee for a $5 coffee. This is an APR of 700,000% if calculated annually. They target the most vulnerable demographics with this. They reorder the transactions in their back-end ledger, processing the largest payments first rather than chronologically, to drain your account faster and trigger multiple overdraft fees in a single day. This is not a service. This is algorithmic looting. They have engineered the pending transaction limbo to confuse you. You look at your app, you see a balance, you think you have money, but the math in the background has already flagged you for slaughter. They rely on the fact that you cannot mentally track the float, the time between the swipe and the settlement. They exploit the lag. They monetize your confusion. The architect monitors his cash flow with the precision of a military operation because he knows that if he blinks, the algorithm will extract a penalty. The bank feeds on chaos. The more disorganized your financial life, the more profitable you are. They want you to be busy, stressed, and distracted because a distracted man cannot do mental math. He just pays the fee to make the problem go away. Then we enter the realm of predatory lending, disguised as buy now, pay later, BNPL. This is the new frontier of cannibalism. The bank saw that the younger generation was wary of credit cards, so they rebranded debt as installments. It looks innocent. Split this $100 purchase into 4 payments of $25. It bypasses the debt alarm in the brain. It feels like budgeting, but it is actually consumption smoothing, designed to make you spend money you do not have on trash you do not need. It trains the brain to decouple acquisition from cost entirely. You get the shoes now. You experience the pain never until the aggregate of 50 small microloans crushes your monthly cash flow. They are microdosing you with debt. They are fragmenting the financial burden into such small pieces that you cannot see the mountain of obligation forming until it collapses on top of you. And the moment you miss one of those micropayments, the fees activate. The interest retroactively applies. The trap snaps shut. They are banking on your optimism bias, the belief that next month you will have more money, next month you will be organized, but next month never comes. The architect understands that affordability is not, can I make the monthly payment? Affordability is, can I buy this twice in cash and not feel it? If the answer is no, you cannot afford it. Anything else is a negotiation with a cannibal who has a calculator and a contract. We must also look at the psychology of the interest rate spread. The bank borrows money from the Federal Reserve at a specific rate, the Fed funds rate, say 5%. They lend it to you for a mortgage at 7%. That 2% spread is their profit. But with credit cards, they borrow at 5% and lend to you at 25%. That is a 20% spread. Why is there such a discrepancy? They tell you it is risk pricing. They say unsecured debt is risky. This is a half-truth. The real reason is elasticity. They know that if they raise mortgage rates by 1%, demand for houses collapses. But they know that if they raise credit card rates from 18% to 24%, you will not stop spending. You are an inelastic consumer because you are addicted to the lifestyle the card provides. You do not shop for APRs on credit cards. You shop for the monthly payment. You are mathematically blind to the cost of capital. You look at the $150 minimum payment and say, I can do that, completely ignoring that the debt is growing like a cancer cell in a petri dish. They exploit your unit bias. You focus on the unit of the monthly payment, not the unit of the total cost plus interest. They hide the total cost of ownership in the fine print that they know you will not read. They are monetizing your laziness. They are taxing your refusal to do 5th grade math. Finally, in this first phase of understanding the mechanism, we must address the gamification of poverty. The banking apps are now designed like video games. Confetti when you open a savings account, green bars when you stay within a budget, red alerts when you are low. They are hacking your limbic system. They want you checking the app 5 times a day. Why? Because every time you log in, they have a chance to cross-sell you a loan, an insurance product, or a credit line increase. They use nudges, subtle prompts that guide your behavior towards profitability for them. You're pre-approved for $10,000. This is not a gift. It is a loaded gun they are handing to a suicidal man. They frame the credit limit increase as a status symbol. Congratulations, you have leveled up. The soft man feels proud. The bank trusts me with more money. The architect knows the bank trusts him to be a slave. The credit limit is not how much money you have. It is how much rope they are giving you to hang yourself. They want you to utilize that limit. A credit card with a $0 balance is a failed product for a bank. A credit card with a maxed out balance where the user pays only the minimum is the golden goose. You must realize that every notification, every email, every special offer is a calculated move in a chess game where they can see the board and you are blindfolded. They are not your financial partner. They are a parasite that has learned to release an anesthetic so you don't feel the bite. To escape, you must first wake up from the anesthesia. You must learn to hate the debt. You must learn to look at an APR of 24% and feel the same visceral physical danger you would feel if a tiger walked into the room. Because the tiger will just kill you once, the bank will kill you every month for the rest of your life. The diagnosis is complete. Now we initiate the extraction protocol to reverse the polarity of the financial current. You must understand that the only difference between a victim and an architect is which side of the compound interest equation they stand on. Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Your entire existence has been engineered to make you pay it. To escape the slaughterhouse, you must treat your debt not as a financial obligation, but as a biological emergency. The soft man treats his credit card balance like a pet. He feeds it monthly payments, keeps it around, and lives with it. The architect treats debt like a necrotic infection. You do not manage an infection. You cut it out with aggressive surgical violence. The first step is the liquidity purge. You must look at your savings account. If you have $5,000 in savings earning 1% and $5,000 in credit card debt costing 24%, you do not have $5,000 in savings. You have $0 and a delusion. You are paying the bank 23% for the privilege of hallucinating that you have a safety net. You must drain the liquid cash to execute the debt immediately. This is mathematical triage. The feeling of safety you get from seeing cash in the bank is a false signal sent by a brain that does not understand that every dollar of debt is an enemy soldier occupying your territory and burning your resources. You must deploy every available asset to neutralize the principal balance. The bank relies on your fear of having no cash to keep you in the trap. You must override this fear with the cold logic of return on investment. Paying off a 24% debt is a guaranteed, risk-free 24% return on your money. No stock market, no crypto, no real estate deal on earth offers a guaranteed tax-free 24% return. It is the best investment you will ever make. Once the immediate bleeding is stopped, we move to the arbitrage of time. We must exploit the grace period. Most credit cards offer a 21 to 25-day grace period where no interest is charged on new purchases if the previous balance was paid in full. This is the float. The architect uses the credit card for everything, not for the points, but for the liquidity timing. You spend the bank's money for free for 30 days. Meanwhile, your paycheck sits in a high-yield savings account, HYSA, or a money market fund earning 5%. You are earning interest on money that you have technically already spent. You pay the bill on the absolute last day of the cycle. You are keeping the time value of money for yourself. This requires iron discipline. If you miss the window by one day, the trap snaps shut and you lose the arbitrage. But if you execute perfectly, you are using the bank's capital to fund your life for free while your capital grows. This is stoozing in its most primal form. You are effectively shorting the dollar against the bank's operational inefficiency. We must then dismantle the FICO score religion. The banking system has convinced you that your credit score is a measure of your worth as a man. It is not. It is an obedience score. It measures how profitable you are to the system. A man with zero debt who pays cash for everything has no credit score. Is he poor? No, he is free. But the system punishes him because it cannot monetize him. The architect understands the algorithm of the score solely to manipulate it for leverage. The score is comprised of payment history, 35%, and credit utilization, 30%. The bank wants you to have high utilization so they can charge interest, but they lower your score if you do. It's a double bind. The hack is statement date optimization. You must find out exactly when your card issuer reports your balance to the bureaus. It is usually a few days after the statement closes. You pay off the balance before the statement cuts, leaving only a tiny amount, like $10, to be reported. The algorithm sees 1% utilization and skyrockets your score. Why do you need a high score if you hate debt? Because you need cheap leverage for assets. You do not use debt for shoes. You use debt for real estate. You need the bank to give you a mortgage at the lowest possible rate. You play their game, fake the obedience, get the 800 score, secure the cheap capital for a cash-flowing asset, and then exit the consumer debt matrix forever. You use the FICO score as a disguise to enter the vault. Let's discuss the balance transfer judo. If you are drowning in 24% debt, the bank will sometimes offer you a 0% APR balance transfer card for 12 or 18 months. They do this because they think you are stupid. They are betting that you will move the debt, feel relieved, Fail to pay it off in 18 months, and then they can hit you with the back interest. The architect accepts the offer, but changes the behavior. You move the $10,000 toxic debt to the 0% card. You pay a 3% transfer fee. This is the cost of doing business. Now you have stopped the compounding. The enemy is frozen in time. You take the monthly payments you were making on interest and attack the principal with kinetic fury. You divide the total balance by the number of months in the 0% period. That is your mandatory payment. You treat it like a mortgage. If you fail to pay it off before the promo ends, you are dead. But if you succeed, you have used one bank's greed to kill another bank's profit. You are pitting two predators against each other while you escape out the back door. This is debt refinancing weaponized. Now we enter the psychological warfare of the phone call. The soft man is afraid to call the bank. He accepts the fees. The architect picks up the phone. You call the retention line. You tell them, I've been a loyal customer for 5 years. I am looking at a competitor's offer with a lower APR. I want you to lower my rate to match them, or I'm closing the account today. The bank has a metric called Customer Acquisition Cost, CAC. It costs them hundreds of dollars to replace you. It costs them nothing to lower your rate by 5%. The agent on the phone has a script and a button they can press to waive fees and lower rates. They are just waiting for you to have the spine to ask. You can remove late fees. You can lower APRs. You can get annual fees waived. You simply have to threaten to leave. This is the leverage of the churn. They fear losing the recurring revenue stream more than they care about the 2% margin. You negotiate with them like a terrorist. You are polite but lethal. I'm holding the scissors over the card right now. What can you do? You will be amazed at how quickly the immutable policies dissolve when revenue is at stake. We must then pivot to inflationary hedging via fixed rate debt. Not all debt is bad. Consumer debt is cancer. Asset debt in an inflationary environment is a superpower. If the government is printing money and devaluing the currency by 7% a year, and you have a 30-year fixed mortgage at 4%, the bank is paying you to live in your house. The real value of the debt is shrinking by 3% every year, 7% inflation minus 4% interest. You are paying them back with cheaper dollars than you borrowed. This is the only time you short the currency. You borrow $1 million of 2026 value and pay it back with $1 million of 2046 value, which will be worth the price of a sandwich. This is why the rich love real estate. They are not just buying property, they are shorting the fiat currency using the bank's own money. You must understand the difference between nominal interest, the number on the paper, and real interest, nominal minus inflation. If real interest is negative, you borrow as much as you can to buy appreciating assets. If real interest is positive, you pay off debt. The architect constantly monitors the real yield environment to decide whether to be a borrower or a lender. Finally, the ultimate reversal is becoming the bank. You must transition from the side of the equation that pays interest to the side that receives it. This is not a metaphor. You must allocate capital to assets that generate yield. Dividend aristocrats, private credit funds, peer-to-peer lending, if risk-adjusted, or simply owning the equity of the banks themselves. If you cannot beat them, own them. When you own JP Morgan stock, every time they charge a soft man an overdraft fee, a microscopic fraction of that fee goes into your dividend check. You are hedging your own existence in the system. You build a fortress of solitude, funded by the incompetence of the masses. You stop looking at the price of things and start looking at the cash flow of assets. You do not buy a car, you buy an asset that pays for the car. You use the velocity of money concept. Keep money moving. Income comes in, it immediately goes to the credit card to pay the balance, stopping interest. Then the remaining gap is filled by the float, and the surplus goes instantly into the investment account. Money never sleeps. Money that sits idle is dying. You must treat your personal finances with the same rigor as a hedge fund. You track your net worth daily. You track your liquidity ratio. You track your burn rate. The moment you stop treating your life like a business, the banks treat you like a product. You must internalize the sovereign mindset. No one is coming to save you. The Federal Reserve is not your friend. The bank branch manager is not your counselor. You are a sovereign economic entity operating in hostile territory. Your math is your sword. Your discipline is your shield. Your cash flow is your oxygen. Cut the debt, capture the spread, hack the score, and build the vault. The cannibal is hungry, but the architect is armed.